Hi everyone, it's Catherine. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here with Claire and we're discussing the Red Wedding tonight. Mainly the Red Wedding. We have one little John chapter to get out of the way first and then it's pretty much all Red Wedding stuff. So John 6 to Tyrion 6 tonight. I think we were saying probably the shortest section of chapters we've read. These chapters are kind of short and swift. And there is only one theme, and that is death, I guess. Next week, we'll be reading from Davos 5 to Sansa 4, which is chapter 54 to 59, according to the wiki. And I have linked my new channel down below. I'll give you plenty of notice, but from the beginning of our Feast for Crows reread, I'll be switching everything, all of my A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones content to that channel, so you don't have to deal with nails anymore if you're not interested. So yes, so Claire, how'd you get on this week?
Well, I read all of the chapters on the Monday, the Bank Holiday Monday, so it's been a week since I've looked at my notes. So and I've started this new job as well, so I'm a little bit kind of a bit all over the place, but I did enjoy reading these chapters. I think I felt the first time I read the Red Wedding, it was just horror. The whole thing was just shock and horror. I wasn't one of those people that kind of threw the book at the wall and I'm never going to read this again. You know, it fascinated me, but it was horrific. This time, it was more frustrating than anything. I'm not the writing or anything like that. That chapter is great. The build up to the horror writing is fantastic and the atmosphere, but just like how obvious. Yeah, we know that. We've seen the TV show. We've seen it recreated visually on the screen, and we've reread these books a million times. And that scene, particularly those cluster of chapters. But it's just that kind of, in hindsight, it was so frustrating that clearly they were walking into a trap.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And my big thing, as soon as I thought this, I couldn't get away from it, and it was like I couldn't. Everything else was really frustrating, which was just why did they agree to go to the twins?
Yeah, I'm going to be saying it again.
They could have done everything.
Muir is right.
yes, exactly. They could have, everything could have been the same. He could have married, you know, they could have arranged the marriage. They could have done it, but I can't remember that chapter, you know, the chapter when the Freys came to Riverrun and they struck the deal. And I remember saying it was like a play for today, just that chapter on its own. It kind of stood alone. It was all about engineering Edmure to be the patsy in this situation for Rob. That's what that chapter was about. At no point, even the Blackfish, it's disappointing, even the Blackfish, at no point did anybody say, okay, we understand and we'll go along with that. And yes, you know, we need to appease House Frey, but we'll hold the wedding here. We'll have it at Riverrun. We demand that it's here at Riverrun. This is the Lord of Riverrun and he will marry his wife here. This is the venue. And just the journey as well was horrible. Why did they put themselves through that journey? It's just so as soon as that notion hit me of why did it have to be at the twins, it just, the whole thing kind of became extremely frustrating for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi Bubba. No, I'm not using the new channel yet. I think I said that in the video I put up. I'll switch over at Feast because I have everything scheduled here, so this is like the transition period, but I will switch everything over at Feast. Also, I'm not entirely sure if I have full streaming access on my new channel yet. I think you need to have uploaded a little bit. So I think I might have limited access. I have to check what I'm able to do on the new channel. You have to have so much kind of traffic on your channel, or your channel needs to be used. I think I could be wrong about that they were the old rules, but I will switch over there for Feast in August when we get to it. But yeah, so before we move on to Red Wedding, we do have John chapter, and John returns to Castle Black. I felt like this chapter could very easily get overlooked. But actually reading it now again, because I was trying to make sure that we were like paying close attention, that I was paying close attention to it. There is actually a lot of foreshadowing in this, and even for Jon's death in this chapter, which kind of surprised me. Going into the Red Wedding, I was like, I need to pay attention for Red Wedding stuff, but there's actually quite a lot of Jon stuff that I missed the first couple of times on this chapter. So when he arrives at Castle Black initially, he notices that Castle Black looks like it's in ruins, which I think when he left Castle Black, he thought it was great or whatever. You know, there was problems with it that he gave to the reader, but maybe he didn't pick up on. But having been with the wildlings and coming back to Castle Black, he kind of realizes, oh, this place is kind of shit. There's nobody really here to defend it.
Yeah.
It's kind of fallen apart, and you know, Annoy is there, and he says at one stage that he pulls the sword down, or should I pull the sword down and stab you now? Can I trust you? Like jokingly. And there's two things in this. First, it foreshadows what happens to Jon getting stabbed by the brothers. But second of all, it kind of says, yeah, maybe. Like, you heard that he's with the wildlings, and yet you're showing an alarming amount of apathy to his potential treachery here. So yeah. Hey everybody, we have Chrissy, Ion, and OTDA in the chat. How's everybody doing? So I'm not sure. I think this is kind of, I mean, Jon is, his leg's bleeding and everything, but he's noticing all this going, oh God, they're not even the least bit prepared.
No, and I also think this is him beginning to shape himself up for command, isn't it? He's starting to think strategically about how many men have we got here? Here's where the wildlings are. This is where they're going to attack. Who's in? I mean, they've got Bowen Marsh is the kind of interim Lord Commander at the moment in the middle of all of this, but they don't really seem that bothered about. I don't know. I thought there'd be more of a thing about how horrific it was, what had happened with the old bear. But everyone just seems to kind of gone, oh well, you know, we're managing, sort of. We're doing this, and Jon's just like, well, that's not going to work. That's not enough. So he's already kind of, as the readers are starting to think, okay, well, this maybe isn't going to be such a bad idea if Jon is put forward for command.
Yeah, no, not at all. And especially, like, I don't even think him telling him, well, the wildlings are attacking at different points to spread out our resources. Like, it shouldn't really take them having to do that for people at Castle Black to realize that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, if there's that many attacks along the wall, clearly they're trying to divide kind of, or distract at various points. But again, this is the state of the Night's Watch. There isn't like a military mind at the wall, as far as we can see, like a great military mind like Mormont, or it like a lot of the men that went with Mormont as well. So I suppose Jon being with Mance though has taught him a bit more than being with Mormont, because we pointed out a number of mistakes that Mormont made as a tactician, if nothing else. But yeah, so OTDA says, true, Claire, they aren't bothered. It's so true. So we also hear that he hears about Bran and Rickon, and he's obviously
and Winterfell, so he gets the whole news of everything that's happened. Winterfell is no more. And
we also hear that Theon is being flayed here, which we'll get kind of a payoff for, I guess, in the next chapter. But he has this, he thinks about Winterfell, and he thinks about the granite towers and all that kind of thing. But he also thinks about the crows wheeling around the towers, which kind of made me think of crows maybe falling from towers. Crows as in Black Brothers, not just crows flying up like when Bran fell off the wall. Or when Bran was thrown off the wall, I should say. And he also thinks about the steam rising from the Godswood, which I thought was interesting. That's something that, like, that's obviously a very iconic thing, and the Stone Kings in their thrones. So he's clearly like, clearly there are certain things, not just the people for Jon, it's the place as well. And I don't think, so, like, the other Stark children definitely do think about the place for sure, like Bran does, but I don't know, this for me it was just this idea of, it's as much about Winterfell being destroyed as it is Bran and Rickon. Maybe for Jon it's because there was never really a chance for him to have Winterfell, so he longed for it more than the other children.
Maybe. It's more meaningful.
OTDA says the Night's Watch seemed like a good idea, but it's basically the most shit place on Westeros, apart from the Black or the Sky Cells, maybe. Yeah, that's true. The
Night's Watch is like a gulag. It is, Bubba. I think there are certain perspectives, certain point of views. I don't know. Sometimes you read Sam's point of view, especially when he's north of the Wall at the moment and just everything's horrific for him. It sounds like a holiday king, but he makes it sound a bit like Hogwarts, doesn't he? Like everything's like loads of fun and you can get lots of food and warmth and it's all very cozy and comfortable. But it is pretty horrific, and you can just see, I mean, in this chapter, Aemon himself says, we are far off and forgotten. And they're kind of seen as a bit of a joke, really, aren't they? And I think this is where I became like a huge Stannis fan, where at the moment when Stannis was the king that responded to the Night's Watch, because it was like, yes, you know, he's the one, he's the one that's really kind of, you know, he's loyal to the realm and he's prepared to kind of go and help out, blah 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 blah, all that kind of. But
of all the characters, Stannis might need wins more than anyone to save his reputation from the show.
Here's a question I've got: how did, with all the updates and everything that Jon's getting about what's been going on in the north, he's told that Theon took Winterfell and that the Bastard of Bolton is now this hero who saved everybody. How did that message get to the, it's just like, how did they find out powerful, that's powerful propaganda. How did it get up to Castle Black?
That's the Boltons, isn't it? Because they sent the same message to King's Landing, didn't they? Said Tyrion got it in his last chapter, I think.
Right, so they actually sent a bird up there and said, this is what's happened.
So another thing that I completely forgot about is his dream at the end of this chapter.
I forgot about this as well, which is pretty grim, isn't it?
It's really grim. This idea that, so he's dreaming and he can see Ned's face in the weirwood, and Ygritte appears from the steaming pool by the sounds of things and tries to, you know, encourage some sexy time, I guess. But he doesn't want to do it with a wildling in front of his Lord Father and dishonor him and not make him proud, which is weird. Does that mean he would do it with a highborn lady? But Ygritte gets naked anyway after several delayering, several there's several steps to the process there, and then kind of dissolves into the pool, dissolves into kind of this bloody kind of steamy mess, and it sounded like a sacrifice to me. And I think he's already let her go.
It's kind of, I mean, it's foreshadowing her death, but it's also symbolically he's just kind of like, that that I need to kind of mentally just draw a line because I'm now back in the Night's Watch and I need to sort of explain what happened. And he's very vocal about, look, this is what I did. I broke my vows. I slept with a wildling. This is what's happened. And they all seem pretty kind of laid back about it.
Yeah, I just wonder what made me think of this. What you said there about him preparing himself for, potentially being Lord Commander. A part of me wonders, is this his subconscious preparing him to maybe put himself in line for Lord of Winterfell? Because now maybe he has a shot. Like, he doesn't really spend that much time grieving for Bran and Rickon.
No.
And maybe that's because he also argues with himself, saying, no, I saw a grey direwolf.
Yes, he thinks he remembers seeing a grey direwolf, doesn't he? And he kind of figures out it can't be Rob. It could only possibly be Bran. So he's I think he's figured that out. In some respects. But yeah, it seems to be like there's a death. The death in the family seems to be Winterfell.
Yeah, it does make me wonder at this stage, having seen everything he has seen, if Stannis arrived at this stage at the Wall and said, Winterfell or Lord Commander, which do you want?
Yeah.
I kind of feel he'd go Winterfell at this stage.
Yeah, at this stage, I think he probably would. Yeah.
What do you guys in the chat think? Hi, Connie. Welcome along. It's a great little chapter, though. It's a chapter I forgot about. I forgot about this chapter.
I suppose if you're reading this for the first time as a reader, there's that huge anticipation of what's the reaction going to be like. It's the end of the book. John makes it back to the Wall. What's that going to be like? Is he going to tell them? How are they going to react? And it just didn't seem to be. It seemed to be a lot more accepting than I expected it to be. But then again, maybe that's just because it's we don't want to reveal too much about the potential kind of mutiny later on down the line.
But also maybe it's George cleverly. We talk about these chapters always seem to lead in together, but we have two moments coming for Kat, Rob, and John here, where they have to be someplace, and the consequences of them going there are going to be huge, and the fallout from them being there are going to be huge. And we maybe expect that more from Castle Black, and we don't get it, so it's kind of anticlimactic. And then we get this completely out of the blue, over the top reaction then from the phrase in the next couple of chapters. Ian says maybe John knows subconsciously because of the Stark's Weirwood Wi-Fi connection. And just OTDA says, just there saying, can you hear me now? Yeah. So was there anything else in this chapter that stood out to you?
Where's Ghost?
Yeah, he's asked that as well, isn't he? Yeah.
So
what is Ghost up to?
He's not come back as per John's instructions. So I don't know. He turns up obviously at some point. Hi, Connie. But I don't know where he is at this stage.
Can I ask a question? This is probably a stupid question, but
Ghost is in Westworld. He's joined the Ghost Nation. Oh my god!
I just want to know: do we have a confirmation of the genders of the direwolves? Is that confirmed? I know they use
I just presume genders reflect the siblings.
I assume they use pronouns to identify them, but yeah,
a bitch, obviously.
No, because now we have Summer and Ghost north of the Wall.
Yeah,
maybe run around out there together at some stage. Just thinking. I would love to give you a solo, but unfortunately they're not mine. They're my husband's. So yeah, you'll have to ask him for that. You definitely don't want to see that. All right. Okay, so here we go. If anyone wants to start the Reigns of Castamere, maybe I should have bought a violin. And my bow and arrow underneath. So here we go into Red Wedding, folks. I've got tissues ready for everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
So so Cat 6, second last Cat chapter. Part of me rejoices, and then as I get back into this chapter, I realize, God, this is a beautifully written chapter. It's just the figurative language and the imagery, just it's so extensive in how it foreshadows what's going to happen in Cat 7, and Lady Stoneheart as well. So just to point out a couple of things. Instantly refers to the green fork as like being like a great beast, and Arya will later on call the green fork, said it sounds like a lion locked up in a den or trapped in a den or something like that. So this image of the river, and of course later on, that's where we'll find Lady Stoneheart, or Cat, I guess, and we get a couple of things then about Cat's heart in this chapter, being full of misgiving. But then when Roose Bolton shows up with some of Theon, she says she'd love to clutch the grisly trophy to her heart. And just the imagery throughout this chapter, it's just amazing. It is amazing. For me, it'll be, and I know it's a broken record. I know a lot of people hate the show, and I know a lot of people love the show. I do not hate the show, but for me, this will be the thing. This is their biggest error for me, leaving her out, because just everything that surrounds this character is so good. I don't know why they left her out, and it's just foreshadowed from almost the Game of Thrones. It is foreshadowed in Game of Thrones as well. So yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'll stop rattling on. So what do you make of this?
Well, there's some really obvious lines in this, especially from Walder Frey, where he's saying the red, he's referring to the wine and the hospitality, but he's saying the red will run and we'll put some wrongs aright. I mean, just everything about the dialogue, the atmosphere is just haunting. There's this undercurrent of this threatening atmosphere, even though the rooms are quite nice and the accommodation's nice. Just the way they, just on arrival, everything about the whole atmosphere with Grey Wind just snapping and snarling, and Peter Pimple falling off his horse and all that kind of, it was a debacle right from the off as soon as they arrived. There was just something not quite. It's like listening to a song that you're really familiar with that's like slightly out of key, and it just makes you feel really like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, where it's like there's something not quite right, but I can't quite put my finger on it. But it's just this whole chapter, as much as I can appreciate how well it was written, it was just frustrating. In terms of the story development, it was just so frustrating that it had got. I mean, obviously, it would ruin everything that was going to be coming in the future. But just so easily walking into Tywin's trap like that, just so easily. At no point did anyone, including the Blackfish, say this is potential. No. Well, you need to get the power back into, you're the king, you're the Lord of Riverrun. This is how it is frustrating how they got to that stage. They walked into a complete trap. As soon as they arrived, there was no turning back.
But part of me wonders, is she almost willing it? Because she also makes that reference to the fact that she'll be trapped with the Malisters soon. But this idea that as soon as she sees the towers, she makes two references, that they look like ghosts in the mist, and that they're mirror images. And mirror images is kind of like, they're not quite truthful. They aren't it isn't what you're seeing isn't what you're going to get.
It's like a skewed reflection.
Reversal. Yeah. So she's got all these, and then the biggest thing of all, several thousand Freys, and meet them, and all of their banners are hanging like drowned cats, which is a great image. And it's just all of this stuff builds up. And Edmure, because I'm going to be an Edmure defender until the day I die, or he dies. Probably he dies first. Hopefully. Edmure says that I'm his liege lord. Why isn't he down here? He should be down here meeting me. I'm coming to marry his daughter. And I know, like, he's a bit arrogant and everything, but he's got a point. I kind of
Yes.
don't really care that Walder Frey is 90 odd, whatever. Like, this is a big, like, at that moment, they should be hightailing it back.
Yeah.
And as you said, you messaged me during the week and said, why did this have to happen at the Towers at all? Like, why didn't they go to River Run for the wedding? It doesn't, just like it's complete ambush.
Baffling that they didn't sense that this was at least potential was going to happen. Somebody needed to do a risk assessment. And
there is a great image as well, because Greywind, and she knows that Greywind is complete. She trusts Greywind's instincts, and yet she puts herself directly between him and the Frey forces, the Frey horses. And I just got this image of, Tully getting in the way of Stark again. But maybe it is foreshadowing. Maybe she will put herself between a Stark and danger as Lady Stoneheart later. But for me, I was just thinking, this is like daughter, like father. The one thing I want to point out between this chapter and the next chapter, she doesn't call on her gods or her faith at all, which isn't the Catelyn that we.
No, she doesn't. Does she? No. She calls. Well, she calls for Ned at the end.
Yep.
That's later in the next chapter, but
because she, all through Clash, she was. We know that Ned, built a sept for her at Winterfell, so she's obviously a very religious person, but we don't get anything here. So this is my idea of her maybe willing it to a certain extent. It's almost like she's trying to cross over to the dark side. She's our Kylo Ren in this story. There's a bit of good, but mainly just bad left. There's it's a very kind of there's some very strange lines in this with her. She notices Jingle Bell's crown and how she doesn't think that the crown was always there. So this is obviously something that they're using to mock Robb. Which is like, come on, how, like, your son shouldn't have to take this. He's the king. You can't be this pissed off with him. Kylo Cat, I like that, Ian. But there's a few things. It's like she's trying to. There's another. He says obviously the thing about the wine. She also says that Frey is like a vulture and a weasel. Well, what does a vulture feed on? And she also they have to stand there while he gloats about outliving several wives, and kind of directly talking to Robb as if like you're not going to outlive any of your wives. And they keep asking for the woman that he's married. So there's so many. I don't know. See, I didn't have the benefit of reading this before I saw the Red Wedding in the show, so I don't know.
I wonder how much of the intricacies of this were engineered by Tywin, like the bringing out, because I'd kind of forgotten this happened, and they did do this as well in the TV show, but wheeling out all of the Frey girls. Like, these are don't apologize to me. These are the ones here that you've disappointed. And he spends all night, at the wedding, he's dancing with them and everything. But for a young man in that situation, that's the thing that would just completely disarm you, I think. Like, oh, shit, I've now got to, like, explain myself or answer. I mean, what he said was actually...
Yeah, Robb was great.
It was actually pretty good. Yeah. But just, he asks for forgiveness and he managed, he does okay. But just the act of that, them pouring in and him being faced by that. Cat
being fecking Cat, just judging them all like cattle. You know, like, and then with Rosalind later, is she is she going to be able to give the kid, if she's going to be able to have kids, and her breasts look a bit small, and there's a bit of a gap in her teeth, and Jesus Christ. And Bubba said it's very sad right up until Cat dies. And there's Bubba also says there's only one thing that the Blackfish does differently to the rest of Tully's that makes him the black goat of the family. He doesn't suck at life. Yeah, we love the blackfish. Yeah, to be honest, I have a soft spot for Edmure on this reread. I'm looking at Edmure in a different way, I have to say. The other thing,
the reverse Bachelor reality show.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is what you could have won.
Yeah, nobody gets the blue rose. So the other thing I forgot about is that Cat actually has to ask for the guest right.
Yes,
I forgot about that bit. Not that it really matters to Frey. I mean, he's not buying into any of this. It's so funny. I'm reading Homo Deus at the moment by Harari, who wrote Homo Sapiens, and there's this whole thing about, you know, the fictions that we create as human beings, like money and religion and all that kind of thing. And guest right is a fiction, and you can either buy into it or you don't. And it's funny though, Tywin actually buys into it, because later on he says to Tyrion, "Oh well, the blood is on Frey's hand," because Tyrion goes, "Oh, I guess guest right doesn't matter," or whatever, and Tywin says, "Oh, but the blood is on Frey's hand." Like, so I don't want that. I don't want that.
I suppose he buys into it to the extent that he knows he can use that as a vehicle to blame somebody else for his like mischievous wrongdoings. But
yay! I have another Edmure supporter. Thanks, Barbara. Edmure for life. And obviously the lots of the Freys are missing as well. And
well, this is it. You've got the good. There's seems like there are 3 good Freys. So you've got
all the heirs, the good ones.
Yeah, Ros seems to. I mean, she's crying a lot, and everyone's just putting this down to it's tears of joy because she's so happy to be marrying Edmure. But I mean, I'm guessing that Rosalind is in on this, you know, or at least she's got a fair idea of what's happening, what's going on. And who are the other 2? There's two of the other. There's Oliver and there was somebody else. That was
Perwyn. Is that his name?
Yes, he's the Frey who travelled to see Stannis and Renly. He accompanied her down to try and broker.
She looks for him in this chapter.
He's not there, and she always had he was a kind of favourable Frey. Oliver, who said that he was he was extremely loyal to Rob, and then there's Ros, and they're all they're brothers and sisters, aren't they? Like Rosalind and Oliver and Perwyn are siblings.
So were
they've got the same mother. Yeah.
So were they sent away, or do they disagree what's happening?
Well, I don't know.
We don't find out, do we?
It could be that they just voiced their.
Ion said, new spin-off, A Few Good Freys, starring Tom Cruise. And Jack Nicholson.
Yes.
Jack Nicholson as Jingle Bell. A very drunk Jack Nicholson, obviously.
But yeah, they all had the same. Yeah, they're all siblings. They have the same mother.
Yeah, because it says that the message is Rosalind Brothers sent a pair of Stark pelts. Isn't that the message that Tywin gets? That's her brothers that do it, but they're not there.
No, they're not. No.
So, but we'll talk about that later because the Jaime Lannister thing is a bit weird as well. The other thing, we get a reference to Lysa weeping a lake of tears before she married John Arryn, and we get Rob's last command in this chapter, which is "We're going home."
Yeah,
which is so sad.
It is sad.
Yeah, it's just in this chapter, it feels like she's willing it a little bit, like she's almost deliberately ignoring the signs, or just ignoring her instincts, like repressing her instincts too much. It's not good tennis. Not good. Connie says maybe they didn't want Aaron to know Lysa was pregnant, so had to sell her fertility to her. Oh, like the Moonty baby. Maybe. That's interesting.
Moonty the baby. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like let him try her
yeah,
out
I mean, I haven't really got much else in this apart from just.
Sorry, no, I don't have anything either.
Are you still there, Kat? You're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. It's just kind of going in and out. Oh, is it me? The internet's slowing down, Stuart said.
Okay. Could be me either if my husband is watching Red Letter Media or something. I mean, no, he's watching me, obviously. So we move on.
Lots
to
of foreshadowing and
lots
of foreshadowing and symbolism in this chapter for the Red Wedding, which is the next chapter. But I think, I mean, just the fact that the Boltons have got 3,500 men there,
Roose showing up out of the blue is a bit of a dodgy one as well, for sure. And and lots of Lady Stoneheart foreshadowing too. So Arya 10 opens equally as ominously as Cat 6. Lots of dreadful imagery here, opening with in the first paragraph mentioning that, you know, the hound's horse stranger is following them. It's like death is following them and following everyone in this chapter. And what Arya sees is even more kind of obvious, and kind of it shows even more that something bad is about to go down. Interestingly, the hound is like Arya. We talked about this before. Arya picks up things from everybody, like tips that will help her be a good faceless man later on. And here Arya is teaching her that nobody looks past a poxy peasant. That if he just kind of hides his face, nobody's going to recognize that he's the hound. As amazing as he looks and as memorable as he is, nobody will recognize him if he just kind of dresses a bit kind of and covers up a little bit. Nobody will recognize him. And we know that so Arya talks about having a terrible dream but can't remember it, which is quite interesting. And she says she should feel excited, but she feels anxious. So there's this like almost instinct, this prophetic instinct, like her wolf instinct, like with Grey Wind, is kind of kicking in a bit. And she also talks about how the music sounds like a battle from the outside. And when the hound kind of he hijacked this cart full of delicious pickled pig's feet and took it from this farmer, and he, or whatever he was, and he's bringing it up, and he's told when he gets to the gate that the castle's closed, and that food wouldn't be good enough for a feast anyway. And yet it would be better than what the Freys are actually serving the Starks. So again, we know that as readers, when we finally get to that bit in the next chapter, it's like, wait, that sounds a bit better than what the hound has in the cart, and he's been turned away. Or sorry, it sounds worse than what the hound has in the cart. So if anyone missed that, they serve Rob, and at the wedding feast they serve calves' brains. So that's delicious. And this is also where she notes that the green fork growls like a lion in its den, and of course then we know. In fairness, there's not we're not left hanging. We've got the Tyrion chapter at the end of the section today that confirms that Tywin is involved, and then the hound ends this chapter with "It's your bloody brother I want." So
in fact, we're left thinking that the hound is actually going to kill Rob, the way he says it.
Yeah, well, it's funny because as she's coming in, she's thinking, as soon as I see some northern banners, or as soon as I see some friends, I'll jump out and I'll get rescue. I'll declare who I am. And you know, the more she recognizes, the less easy she feels there. As soon as the more kind of, so it's almost like I better stay with the Hound because I don't feel good here.
There are also Boltons everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
So she's terrified that she's obviously not seeing that, you know, no one can really see the bigger picture at this point, but she's thinking about retribution because of her escape from Harrenhal. She stole a Bolton's horse. She killed a Bolton man. She steal the map and the dagger from Bolton. Yeah. So she's thinking, on the one hand, I want to reveal myself to the Northmen and say this is who I am, but at the same time, I left a trail of destruction back at Harrenhal, which I'm pretty certain I'm not going to be able to get away with. So I can kind of understand why she's a bit hesitant and she sort of holds back, but she doesn't seem to recognize anyone anyway. She recognizes that these are Northmen, but she can't see any Starks anywhere. No, she doesn't see anyone that she recognizes from Winterfell.
No, but she does think to herself as well, I think she thinks that she wouldn't be recognized anyway because she looks quite different now to the way she looked at Harrenhal. But she doesn't recognize that much. But I still get the feeling, especially in the next chapter as well, even when she's running from him, there's a sense of maybe I should just stay with him. There's like there's a safety with him that she won't get anywhere else. Even now, even though she hates him.
And also they do seem to have developed this, like we were saying last week, that in reality the Hound isn't that much older than Arya. I think he's just like a teenager, isn't he? He's like 19, 20. He's not that old.
No, yeah, I thought he was in his early 20s. Yeah, he would be in his early 20s.
Yeah,
I think now he would be.
Last week with the chapters that we had with them crossing the river, and he was like basically he was telling her what to do, and she at first was quite petulant, like, you know, no, I don't think so. And she was like, you know, standing over him while he's sleeping, trying to stab him and stuff. But he eventually, she kind of, she does what he says. And I was saying that it's almost like that craving some sort of parental guidance from somebody, you know, and this is an adult who seems to know what he's doing. He's in charge and he seems to be sort of, you know, he's telling me what to do. It's a part of me that doesn't really want to, but I'm going to do it anyway because he's the one who seems to know what he's doing. I think she's just absolving some of the previous kind of petulance that she had.
But he's not mistreating her.
No, he's not. No. I mean, he's keeping her secure the way he sort of wraps her up in the horse blanket and stuff. But yeah, she describes the castles as, and I quote, spooky and mysterious. So you get this sense of doom and dread continues throughout Arya's chapter. The whole, you know, the atmosphere that was set up, that kind of, there's something a bit off key here that doesn't feel comfortable, that carries on through. So these three chapters, the cats and the Arya, then the cat and the Arya, for the 4 chapters, they're almost like you know, you could bunch them together just as like a separate, distinct part of the story. They flow together, these 4 chapters, back to back.
So Connie says maybe Arya's awful dream she doesn't remember was through Nymeria's eyes, and it was the chaos a wolf didn't understand. Yeah, it's possible that Nymeria could sense that Grey Wind was near, maybe, as well. And Ian says, according to the Song of Ice and Fire wiki, the Hound was born in 2070 or 2071.
So how old would that make him then?
I was just going to ask you. I think it starts in 296. Is that right? He's 18 at the start of the books.
I'm not sure. Yeah, that sounds about right. 18.
Yeah, I think so he'd be about 20 now. Yeah.
So he's still.
I think it's 296 is when they start. Oh, he's 30 or so. Oh, I'm totally off. What year did they
Okay.
start? Oh, I thought it was like the 290s.
Yeah, why did I think the Hound was like a teenager? I don't know. I don't know.
That sounds very old for the Hound.
It does.
Interesting. All right. So thanks, Ian. All right. So that's. Is there anything else in that Arya chapter that you want to discuss?
Just when Arya overhears people talking about the young wolf and Queen Jane, and she thinks to herself, "Who's Jane?" she's missed so much. Yeah. Well, that's it. And then we get to the big chapter. So this is it.
This is it. So yeah, so Ian says 300 AC is when he allegedly died, per the wiki. Interesting. I didn't think we were up to 300 already. That's interesting. All right. So, Cat 7. So can I just ask? You said at the beginning of this that you weren't one of those people that threw your book at the wall when you read this. What would make you throw your book at the wall if not the Red Wedding?
No, not much really.
I think I know. Brienne dying.
Maybe.
Although maybe unless she doesn't come back. I'm
beginning to see that as a possible inevitability. I know
what would make me throw. I know Davos dying. Davos cat dying.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'd throw my book at the wall if Davos dies. There is a crying cat emoji just in time for the Red Wedding. Thanks, Ian. And if anyone is going to find it, you would. So thank you very much. So this chapter begins with pounding, and this headache she has.
Boom,
which
doom,
is obviously,
boom, doom. Yeah.
The music, the horrible food, the close together, they're packed in. But for me, I think it is this because she's been repressing her instincts, that she's not, like, she's literally clouded her own judgment in this situation and she can't think straight. And she's just overwhelmed maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's what
she probably knows that they're in a trap, but she's just not. It's like she's not letting herself admit to that. And it could just be because of Cat's pride. How could this possibly happen? He's the king. This will never, just because of her station and her status, that could possibly, that would never happen.
Would anyone have listened to her if she had just gone on the instincts of, like, well, maybe he should have come down to meet Edmure? Maybe...
I think if we go back to that chapter a few weeks ago where the Freys arrived and they brokered that deal, and Edmure was the fall guy for it. I think when they were having their separate conversations without the Freys, where everyone was just jumping on Edmure and you're going to have to take the fall for Rob's mistake, at that point, I think, because I think Tywin was taking a risk with all of this. He was taking a risk that somebody at some point would say, yes, we completely agree, we go along with everything, but we're having it here at Riverrun. So my question is, why did that not happen? Do
you think Tywin wanted it to happen at Riverrun?
Maybe. But at the end of the day, I suppose it doesn't matter where they have it. If the Northmen are going to turn against you, if the Boltons and his 3,500 men are going to turn against you, it doesn't really matter where you are. But I'm just thinking that Riverrun would be safer. Is that? I get claustrophobic quite easily anyway. Just that thought of being like the door, like locked in the doors, and you can see the weapons on the wall, and I would immediately be doing like a risk assessment in my head of like, I need to get out of this room. But I just feel as though it would be a safer environment at Riverrun.
like Connie just said there, how could our own bannermen betray us? Wake up, Cat. Should have gone home like Ned told you to. Yeah, also, that's a good point, Connie. Let's look at the Frey history here. They call him the late Lord Frey because he came so late to Robert's side, right? Isn't that right? So this guy is known for being a bit flexible. Like the Tullys weren't always the liege lords of the Freys. So this guy is not. There's no sense of long-term loyalty with these guys. He's known for being a bit of a creep.
Yeah.
So since he was a child, so she knows. And even the reference in the, I think it's the second or third paragraph in this chapter where she says that it's so crowded that all the men, like, you could poke one another in the ribs.
Yeah, it's just uncomfortable, just that sense of just extreme uncomfortableness. And everyone's getting drunk. The music is terrible. Everyone around her is getting drunk, including the people that she really probably could do with defending Rob, like the
Great John,
Great John and the Small John, and even like Dacey Mormont. That's that moment. That's when it all happens, really, doesn't it? She suddenly wakes up and realizes, shit, this is what's going on.
And it happens so quickly then.
Yes, yeah. And it wasn't in the TV show. She kind of pulls back Bolton's sleeve, and he's got his chainmail underneath. That's in the TV show, but in the book, it was a Frey, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a Frey. And also, there's no mention of Roose in this chapter, right? I don't really remember seeing them being mentioned. Could be wrong now, but I don't think he's mentioned really. He's mentioned in the previous, yeah.
Yeah, she's sat. I think she is sat next to him. She's cramped in between.
Sorry, I meant in the. Sorry, what I mean is at the actual, when the killing actually starts, he isn't mentioned as being like central to it, is he? Sorry, I should have looked this up.
It's the one. Yeah. No, it's
all Frey here, right?
It's all the Freys, yeah. Edwin Frey was the Frey that Dacey asked for a dance, and he said no, and he was like, and Dacey got upset about that, and it was in that moment that Kat asked, "Is there something wrong?" And she starts to get doubt grips her heart, finally, but it's all too late. Then the crossbows start coming from the gallery, and they're both like feathered immediately, Rob and Kat. And then just it's a massacre. Everyone from the north is killed. Dacey's the one that gets the axe in the belly. In the TV show, it was obviously whatever she was called. I can't even remember her name, but
I can't remember her name either, which doesn't matter. No, they do place Roose as a much more central character in the TV show, and I actually kind of like that about the TV show one. But I think that I like both of them separately. But she instantly just, like, Waldra says to her, "Do you take me for a fool?" And she says, "I take you for a father," and instantly tries to appeal to him. It's far too late at that stage. And in the show, Rob's last words are "mother." In the book, it's Greywind, and she says, "Go to him."
Yeah.
Which, he probably does go to him in terms of warging, maybe, or
she hears Greywind howling as well, and there's theories out there that he warged into Greywind right at the end, and I mean, not that would do much good because Greywind got decapitated anyway, so.
Yeah, but he takes out a few Freys with him on the way out, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think he does. I believe. Does anyone in the chat know? I think he takes out a couple. I think there's something about him. I know in the show they crossbow him while he's in the kennel.
Yeah, that which is just horrific.
Yeah, it's awful. But here, it's horrendous. With Dacey as well. It's so sad. But and she notes with Daisy dancing with Rob, you know, Ned had a gift for inspiring loyalty, and that Rob is the same. And in my head, I'm going, but Ned also had a gift for inspiring treachery. Remember?
Yeah.
Think about what happened to him. It's like,
yeah. And
it didn't happen that long ago.
as does Rob with Theon. I mean, God, that's like one of the most.
And the Karstarks.
Yeah, and the Karstarks. Oh,
that didn't happen that long ago, but she does.
I didn't realize
think about Ned a lot.
Yes, yeah.
You didn't realize what? Sorry.
I was just going to say I didn't realize there was another feast going on in the other tower at the same time that they called the Bastard Feast. So there was the main wedding feast, where all this massacre was going on, and then there was the Bastard Feast in the other tower,
where all the phrase skipped out.
So was that? I'm guessing that there was fighting going on at that tower as well, and that the.
I thought that was where they were having the real party.
Oh right, okay.
I thought that was the way I read it. That was, I could be wrong. I thought that was where they were doing the real celebrating.
Right. Yeah.
Because I think the phrase would be that twisted.
And the Boltons as well, because there's actually not that many.
There's not that many
Northmen. That, I mean, just a handful really that Rob's got around him. But oh my God,
there's so much in this chapter as well. Because even before this all starts, she talks about the bedding, and Rosalind is like really stiff and like really frightened. And of course, then she realizes later in this chapter, just because Rosalind knew what was going to happen. She thinks about the Tower of Joy briefly, because Lord Dustin was the one who stripped her dress off when she was to be bedded by Ned, and made this really rude, crude remark about like, I'd still be nursing if I had breasts like that, Ned, or something. And and poor Lord Dustin didn't come back from Doran or whatever it is.
Well, this is another thing that makes me realise this is because Lady Dustin, much later on when she's in the crypts talking to Theon, she really has a thing about, because she's like, oh yeah, you know, Cat got Brandon, and then after Brandon was killed at King's Landing, then Cat got Ned, and she got him as well. And it's like there's this, you can really see the jealousy that Lady Dustin has for Cat, which is bound to be fueled even more with the knowledge that it was her husband that was ripping Cat's clothes off at the bedding.
Yeah.
Which is just a little thing that's kind of dropped in, but it makes
pretty much straight away then, right? Like I don't think Ned and Cat got to spend much time together. It was 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, not much time at all before. Yeah, and that was it. He never came back. Just his horse came back. Lord Dustin. Yeah.
And I do like the land, obviously the Rains of Castamere and everything coming in. By the way, do you have to sing every line in your head when you read it? I sing every line of it.
Well, no, I get Roy Dotrice singing it to me. So,
does he sing it on the audiobook? He does.
Yeah, he gives it a good old try. He does.
I'm hoping to see that this week. Tuesday night, I'm going to the Game of Thrones concert, folks. So I'm hoping they play it.
That'll be fantastic. So it'd be very emotional. Take your tissues.
I think they show scenes and then they have the live orchestra there.
Yeah, Barbara, I agree that Rob is Cat and Brandon's, not Cat and Ned's.
Yeah, there's definitely, we'll get to her final words soon, all right. Bubba says, Rob should have already been married to Daisy Mormont before they ever came to the twins for the first time when Cat showed off her art of the deal skills. Yeah, that would have been a great match. A Mormont Stark match is definitely something we should have got. And Connie is saying that Brandon's baby is Rob too, and Frey cooking probably tastes like McDonald's after 30 minutes. Not if it's calves' brains. Although I suppose that is actual meat going into it, maybe unlike a lot of McDonald's food. I don't know. So I shouldn't say I don't eat meat, so why would I know? And Barbara, yeah, you said that. And Ian says Detroit leaves the singing and the sounds of the horns. Oh yeah, that's right. He does do the sounds of the horns. Yeah. Okay, so she obviously she takes she said she thinks, even as she's negotiating with Lord Walder, she had lived too long and Ned was waiting. So it's almost like, again, this idea that she's almost willing this to happen in a way. It's like, oh, I'm done now anyway. It's just, as long as I can get Rob out, I'll be fine. Yeah. And I mean, of all the sons to grab, does she really think he's going to give up Rob for Jingle Bell? I mean, you know, poor old Jingle Bell and everything, but I don't think that's going to happen. And even Walder says, oh, he's a grandson anyway, and not much use.
Yeah, a son for a son. Not really, yeah. No. Yeah.
So,
but there's a couple of things that she says here. She calls for mercy.
Yes.
I mean, every time you see the word mercy now, it's obviously linked to Arya's chapter later on. But she also thinks to herself, I will kill Walder Frey. There's also, I'm just pulling out some of the foreshadowing here earlier on when Walder Frey's kind of chastising them for when they turned up at the Twins. And Grey Wind like frightened Peter off the horse, and he said, what if Peter had broken his neck? Which is, like, you know, Lady Stoneheart hangs. Isn't Peter Pimple? It's the same Peter, isn't it? Yeah. And she actually hangs him later on, which is interesting, because I thought when I was reading the books that this was just some random, like, lower down the branch of phrase, but it's the same. That it's the same Peter. So yeah, what if Peter had broken his neck? Walder Frey says to Cat, and as we know later on, she hangs him.
Actually, there's something I'm wrong about. It is it probably is a Bolton that takes Rob out in the end, because they're wearing dark armor and a pale pink cloak. So that is a Bolton, right?
Yeah.
But we don't know if it's Roose Bolton.
No.
Do we? Like in the show, it's Roose. I kind of liked that it's Roose in the show, actually. I'm kind of interested in the line though. Jaime Lannister sends his regards. So is that something that this guy comes up with on the spot, or is that something that Tywin wants?
No. It was. Don't you remember when Jaime was at Harrenhal with Bolton, and he said, "Send," and Roose said, "Send my regards to your father," and Jaime said, "Send my regards to Rob Stark." So he did.
So then that is Roose Bolton that's killing Rob there.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So because I forgot about that, actually. Yeah, because I was wondering, was there some reason that Tywin maybe wanted that specific message sent about Jaime, but clearly not. So
no,
yeah, that's just to confirm that it's Roose, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so then the next line is he thrust a long sword into her son's heart and twisted. Rob had broken his word, but Catelyn kept hers. So it's just like she kills Jingle Bell, obviously, and then she starts to lose her mind. We're told that the tears burned like vinegar as they ran down her cheeks. 10 fierce ravens were raking her face with sharp talons and tearing off strips of flesh, leaving deep furrows that ran red with blood, and she could taste it on her lips. It's almost like you can see this this psychological breakdown, and it's almost like she's literally getting the taste of blood now.
Yeah.
Her grief is switching over into vengeance.
Yes.
Straight away.
Yeah. The transition happens as she's dying. Yeah.
Yeah. And that idea, like, that's the other thing. Like, imagine being able to see that in the show, the idea of, like, I know there's loads of artist impressions of it out there, but those tears kind of scratched into her face forever.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then it almost makes you forgive Kat. The lines, "It hurt so much, she thought, our children, Ned, all our sweet children, all our sweet babes, Rickon, Bran, Arya, Sansa, Rob, please, Ned, please make it stop hurting." So she mentions Rob twice, I guess, because Rob is the only one of her children that she's seen die, and we know the only one of her children that's actually dead. But so is there anything here that still makes you think that maybe this is Brandon, like Brandon might be Rob's father? Was there anything in her last kind of thoughts here that made you think of that? Because I know who mentioned it. Barbara mentioned it.
Connie. Yeah.
Oh, and Connie. Yeah. Okay.
Ned's hooking up with a shower cat. Ned ain't waiting, honey.
Yeah. No. That's. But she'll get Brandon, so it's all right. She'll have her wolf.
Yeah. It is sad, actually. The very end, just the final thoughts, but all of this could have been avoided quite easily. They were silly to just walk into this trap. They shouldn't never ever have agreed to the wedding being at the Twins. They might have stood a bit of a fighting chance if they had more of the Tully men around them, but.
And then the slow red worms, the blood running down her arms, and all that kind of thing. It makes her laugh because it tickles, and she starts laughing, and then she starts screaming, and then they say, "Oh God, she's lost her mind. Just kill her." But we find out then in the Tyrion chapter, actually, the plan was to keep her alive as a captive. But they obviously realized this woman is out of her mind. There's no way we're going to be able to keep her locked up. Like this, it's going to be way too much effort. Or maybe someone was like, maybe Walder at that stage was like, actually, I don't want to see this. I don't want this reminder or hanging around reminding me.
Yeah,
maybe I'm reading too much into. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit.
the comments are quite interesting here. So, Iron Throne says, Cat mentions Rob twice because he died twice. Once as Rob and once with Grey Wind.
Ah, excellent. Yeah.
So that kind of would make sense, actually. And there was some tension in an earlier chapter with the guy from Seaguard. Remember, Rob was going to send Cat there, and she kind of found him quite. And she sort of described his physical appearance, and she seemed to find him quite handsome. And Connie, Ned loved her auburn hair. Cut my throat, not my hair.
I know. I'd probably be a Tully.
Hi, John. AU Pack Mule.
Hello.
Yeah, John, we've literally just come to the end of the Cat chapter.
We're on Red Wedding.
The Red Wedding. And, yeah, wow.
I'll take I should have bought in a lighter.
Yeah.
And John, I haven't seen your Westworld stream because I haven't watched Westworld from last week yet. I haven't had a chance.
Haven't you?
No, I haven't watched it yet, so I'll have to watch both of them back to back tomorrow. Yeah, so that's Red Wedding. And next time we see Cat. By the way, I have a question. How long does it take Beric to bloody move people if the Hound and Arya are already there? Like, come on. Surely you can move a bit faster and get yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's it. Then we're on to, we reckon, the shortest chapter in the series.
Definitely well, the audio was only 10 minutes, and the chapters are usually on average around 30 minutes each. So this was a really, really super short chapter. And it just really continues. It's the aftermath, isn't it? It's just a continuation of what's happening outside. Yeah, so there's the riders that are pouring out of the castle. Arya and the Hound are within, the castle walls, and there's torches and axes everywhere. Arya hears the wolf howling. I wonder if that was the same time that Cat heard Grey Wind grey wind howling, or if she could somehow hear Nymeria howling at the same time because of what was happening to Grey Wind. But anyway, she hears a wolf howling, and obviously it's the battle. The same song is coming from both towers, so the Rains of Castamere is being played at both of the towers.
It's probably just at the end of the cat chapter. I think there's a slight overlap here. What do you guys in the chat think? I think you're right that I think the howling that she hears is the howling that Cat hears, because the song seems to come to an end for both of them. And yeah, we're on Arya 11. Thank you, Ian, for always doing that. You're a great lad altogether. So we have Arya instantly finds herself in the middle of a battle and doesn't know like what's happening, and neither does the Hound, obviously. And there's like these moments where she's screaming at Freys to say don't, as if like stop fighting. And it's just, from a child's perspective, it's just so, it's interesting because we kind of see Kat at the end of her chapter and the end of her life revert to an almost id kind of state, this kind of childlike state. Did you give him his Bone?
No, I'm going to do that now because he's bringing his.
I don't know why I'm spelling it out, because he doesn't have his.
He can't hear you. No.
No, but I did make the mistake of saying chicken one night.
Oh my god, yeah, that made my life hell for about half an hour.
Yeah.
Right, we're back in a minute.
We have to go give Marwan a phone. Oh, there we go. Got my hand coming in on the screen. Thank you very much, my dear. So there is a bit of overlap here, so yeah, that's why the music is so loud. There's definitely some sort of overlap, and this is does anyone know if there is a shorter chapter than Arya 11? I tried to look it up before the stream. I meant to look it up and I forgot. But I think this is one of the shortest. I think Ned 10 in A Game of Thrones, the Tower of Joy chapter, is quite short as well, but this feels even shorter. And I guess it's good coming off that like horrendous moment where the unthinkable happens, and into this really short action-packed chapter where it's just chaotic, and it's great writing to kind of the chaos in the reader's mind and the chaos that's surrounding Arya. It's really well structured. Yes, Mr. C is great. He did bring me the tea. Barbara says, I think the Hound knows immediately what's happening. He recognized the Rains of Castamere being played. Yeah, big red flag. In fact, I wonder how many Starks outside realized when they heard that music, what the hell? And they are all drunk and the Freys aren't. Bubba says, you stop that fighting right this second. I swear I'll turn this car right now. There won't be any Dollywood splash country for anybody. Yeah, very good. Hi, Anita. How are you? There's not a huge amount in this chapter for me, other than the images of the rain and the river and the heart kind of being reinforced here. I think for me, there are so many connections between Kat and her daughters that she, in A Game of Thrones, let's not forget, in Cat 1 of A Game of Thrones, she lets them go in her heart. She says that to herself.
Yeah, I'm surprised you can even remember who they are, to be honest. You know?
And yet there is so much overlap, much more, I think, with the girls than the boys.
Yeah.
With Kat and the girls. And here we have like this thing with Sansa is trying to be the next Lady Stark. And then we have Arya constantly trying to get back to her. And in a way, Arya and like Lady Stoneheart are kind of going in the same kind of dark vengeance direction. So it's just the irony of it.
It's a short, and I believe the shortest chapter so far in the entire series. But it's short but extremely sad. Like, you get those glimpses from Arya's point of view where she genuinely thinks to herself, but I came so far, like I almost made it, it's just that sense of we just had such a tragic, horrific chapter, and then you get this short, sharp. And again, at the end of the chapter, you get this like whack on the back of the head, and it feels like that's happening to you as a reader. Like you're literally somebody's getting the book and just whacking you over the head with it. When I read this chapter for the very first time, and I think it was just because it's so short and it was on the back of the Red Wedding chapter, just the aftermath of it, I genuinely thought, forgetting everything we've said already about them developing some form of bond between them, whether it's Arya needing this kind of parental role that he's kind of providing some sort of, an authority figure. His axe hit her at the back of the head. I genuinely believe that the Hound had killed her, and that we just had, because it was such a Rob's gone, Cat's gone, now Arya's gone. It's just all happening. What's happening with this story? Where is it all going? So obviously it was the only thing that he could do, just to knock her out and kind of,
there's no way. There's no way you're getting her out of there unless she's unconscious. That's for sure.
But he knew straight away. She's asking, I've got to get in there. My brother. And Sandor just says he's dead. Forget about it. Dead as soon
as he heard the music.
Yeah.
And he was.
Yeah.
In fairness.
Yeah. That's true.
Connie says Kat wanted to go to King's Landing with Ned, and he told her no. You stay at Winterfell. That was a huge foreshadowing that Kat would not. Yeah. No, she didn't even want to go back to Winterfell in 2 chapters ago. She didn't want to go back to Winterfell. She said that was depressing. There's a sweet moment here where Arya also thinks that she needs to run as fast as a wolf, and then almost immediately thinks faster. So it's almost like, I need to be faster than a Stark, faster than you, like a Tully. I need to be more. So this is like, this is where like we're going to get this ramped up Arya no one kind of arc from now on. I mean, how could you not? This is pretty horrific. And luckily, she doesn't go into that hall. But she's already seen enough, I guess. So anything else then for Arya 11?
No.
All right. A break from the Red Wedding. I do get like a knot in my stomach when I get to that part, because as much as I don't particularly like Kat as a person or whatever, I did kind of enjoy her POVs because of the political stuff in it. Sometimes it was incredibly frustrating, as you know, from our discussions. But I do miss that voice. I do miss her voice, because it was a very unique voice. All the voices are unique, but she did have a very unique voice that's kind of gone from the books. But I guess we get Brienne instead later on, so that's a good thing. So then we move on to Tyrion, and it is a welcome relief, this talk of peas. By the way, there's a weird spelling of peas. Do Americans spell peas with an E at the end? In my book, there's some weird spelling.
You think peas as in Pease, like peas pudding? Yeah. Peas pudding.
I thought they were eating like garden peas. Is that not what they're eating? Sorry, this is a complete tangent coming off the Red Wedding.
I'm not quite sure. Stuart, what's peas pudding? Peas spelled Pease, like peas pudding. It's still peas.
He said, Podrick spooned so many on my plate. I think they are. I think because he chased them around the plate, I think. But it's weird because we spell peas with just an S at the end, right? We don't spell it with an E at the end. Garden peas, like.
No.
Anyway, this is a total tangent. It was one of those things that I was like, that's so weird. I'm sorry, coming off the Red Wedding, I apologize, but it is one of those things. It's like we've just had the bloodiest moment in the series, and now I'm getting sidetracked with the keys. So Tyrion is having, obviously Sansa is having some cook issues, or else she doesn't give a shit. She probably doesn't give a shit. Obviously communication isn't great between them. And he thinks about, you know, while he's talking to her, I mean, dinner is really exciting for him. And as he's having dinner with her, he's also thinking about his trying to sort out Littlefinger's accounting nightmare. And here we get mention of the Antlermen again, who we had mentioned in the Battle of the Blackwater. And the Antlermen owe a lot to the crown. I'm wondering, will we learn a bit more about these Antlermen in future in the city?
Yeah, they were the staunch Baratheons, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah. And how did they must have owed a lot to the crown before the Blackwater, but they were forming a little kind of a rebellion within the city walls, isn't that right?
Yeah.
At the Blackwater.
And Tyrion, didn't he throw them off the walls, and Joffrey demanded that they had like antlers stamped and stapled to their heads.
Yeah, Joffrey threw them off the walls.
Yeah.
Tyrion said that he wished he'd claimed some of their money before Joffrey had done that. And isn't there a theory out there that Bran may be behind these guys at one stage? They're kind of like the King's Landing. They sound a bit like the King's Landing version of the Harpies.
A little bit, yeah.
Little bit.
Maybe. Yeah.
Bubba says she didn't want to go back to Winterfell. This is Kat. When she ran into Tyrion at the Inn of the Crossroads. That's true. She wanted to go to her father and brother in Riverrun. Oh yeah, she's all about Riverrun. She looked at going to her kids as a duty. Yeah, and family comes first for sure. The red wedding tears as large as peas. Yeah. So,
you know what? Could forget A Song of Ice and Fire. I want to know what Anita's dream was about. Apparently, she had a dream about A.U. Packmule.
Oh my goodness.
And it gave her the indication that she needed to kind of check in on the community again. And she was saying Anita, it was cool. So what was this dream about, Anita?
Anita, it might be that he's just like rocketing past his 600 sub mark.
Chapter 11, Anita.
Yeah. We won't give you an axe in the back of the head. Just tell us what the dream
I'm sure we all dream about John.
So we have there's so Sansa. This is what made me think about the religion thing as well, because Sansa's constantly praying the gods would and all that kind of thing, and very similar to, well, we know why she's there, but very similar to this idea of Kat that we had of this kind of religious, kind of pious kind of woman. And Tyrion thinks that he can smell the rain on the air. And of course, rain has been so connected with death in the last few chapters that it's just, again, just a great kind of tie-in. It's just, we know what the news they're about to get. And then he's called to the
small council. Or the Tower of the Hand. Yeah,
the Tower of the Hand. Thank you. And so called to the Tower of the Hand, and this reminded me of the scene where Kat was called to the like Rob's council, and she's the last to the meeting. And here we have Tyrion being called, and he's the last to know. He's the last to the meeting. Also, it's just like, again, you know, this, I know this point is made in the show, but this idea of like having the meetings in the Tower of the Hand, and it's obviously a great physical struggle for him to get there as well. So it's going to take him longer, but it seems like they've been there a while, so they all know way before he does. And yet he's the one that Tywin keeps behind. And I've got a couple of questions about that as we get to that scene. But is there anything in particular that hit you before we got to the small council meeting, apart from the peas?
I've got a note here that Joffrey tries to start pushing it a little bit with Tywin, and he says, oh, well, you know, the reason that but basically he accuses Tywin of being scared of King Aerys, and you know, I'm not going to listen to what you've got to tell me about what a king should be, because you were the one that was scared of the Mad King Aerys. So Tywin,
he says,
said, he's pushing it, but I think ultimately,
my father was fighting the Mad King while your father was hiding in Casterly Rock. He's like, he doesn't even address him. What a little shit. But Tywin doesn't lose his cool, you know. Even Tyrion says it, you know, that this is not a man with blood. You know, that he talks about Amory later on, his blood was up. Tywin says his blood was up, and Tyrion thinks you're not a man who has any blood in you, are you? So he's not a man that loses his temper, that's for sure. Not in this situation, and he could very easily lose his temper. But and after that, Cersei has Joffrey, I nearly said Jeremy, Joffrey by the shoulder, and Tyrion thinks better she should have him by the throat. And there's a couple of things that came to mind there. I'm sure a lot of Valonqar theories came to people's minds when they thought of that as well, when they saw that. But it's obviously foreshadowing Joffrey's death. But there is this kind of, when he finally has Kevin bring Joffrey to bed, Tywin sends him off to bed without supper. There is this thing where Cersei says to Tywin, "I did warn you he was willful." And Tywin says, "I did not go to war to seat Robert II. You gave me to understand the boy cared nothing for his father." So I guess this means that Tywin helped orchestrate Robert's murder with Cersei.
Yeah,
that wasn't
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. But it's all very. I was just going to say, it's all very. You can almost see Tywin's got this like mental map in his head, and he's kind of moving things around, moving people around. This isn't new to Tywin. He's been in this role for a very long time, and he's been quite successful. He is the hand that wipes the king's arse. You know, he's the one that is actually in charge. He was in charge when with the three previous king. In fact, Tywin was the king for all you know, intents and purposes, throughout 2 or 3 different like monarchies at least. So he's, I mean, the fact that he talks about, well, no, or you didn't know, not, you know, don't take offense at the fact that you didn't know. There was no reason to tell you. You weren't meant to know anything at that point. He's very calculated and clinical about his plans and where he moves things around. So he doesn't, but in a, you know, he takes these decisions where there's certain things that he does where I can actually see things from Tywin's point of view.
I agree.
And there's certain moments as well where you think that's really still quite shitty, but I can see where you were actually trying to take the more humane approach.
Well, sorry, no, I was just going to say, and that's why I think when he says that, you gave me reason to think he cared nothing for his father. He's saying, I wouldn't have taken Robert out if I thought the boy was attached to him. Like it felt like he's saying, he is my grandson. Yeah. Like I don't like, and maybe I'm giving him too much credit as well. Maybe he's just saying, if he's not pliable, if he's not malleable, if I can't mold him into what I need him to be, if he is his father's son, this is all for nothing, kind of thing. Yeah, that's I don't know if that feels like is what he was saying there. But he and he says that he's only 13 and that it's nothing a sharp lesson won't fix. And Tyrion thinks, I was 13 when you gave me my sharp lesson. And wonders what the sharp lesson he might have in store for Joffrey. And I wondered that too. What is the sharp lesson? It made me wonder, did rumours of the Tyrells' plot to kill Joffrey get to Tywin and he ignored them?
Possibly, yeah. Or maybe he was even part of it.
Well, yeah, maybe he was part of it, because nothing really happens without Tywin knowing. I mean, Tyrion
or maybe
is really that person.
maybe not part of it directly, but certainly a knowing observer that decided, well, if this is going to happen, I'm not, you know, let's just see how it plays out, rather than him being the only thing that Tywin is invested in. Really, is the name of the Lannister, is the Lannister legacy. So, you know, he's not going to be that bothered really about any harm coming to Joffrey, I would have thought, because, you know, he's, especially if he's proven to be quite troublesome. I could imagine actually Tywin, in Tywin's position, definitely favouring Tommen. Oh, you know, because he talks about, he says, look, I know he's problematic. I'm expecting his mother to take him in hand, but I'm still quite hopeful because he's only 13. Is, you know, there's time yet to kind of mould him and bring him into the fold, and, you know, make it, you know, ensure that he is ruling the way that we want him to rule and making the decisions that I want him to make.
AU says it also shows that Tywin doesn't think Jaime is his father. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's more important that I think Tywin is definitely ignoring that, but I think for him that only matters if anyone else knows. Like, if the children knew, that would be a big problem. Like, for him, I think it's important that Joffrey doesn't have any kind of suspicion there, or, you know, that Joffrey isn't too attached to Robert. Basically, Tywin wants to be able to mold Joffrey. He wants to be the father. He wants to be the only kind of father figure, if you like, there. I think, maybe. But maybe he doesn't know about Jaime. I kind of feel like he would, though. Especially since their mother knew. So why wouldn't he know? I mean, she made sure that she tried to make sure Tywin wouldn't find out, that's for sure, Joanna Lannister, but I feel like it seems like it's the worst kept secret. Why wouldn't he hear that?
Are you saying they seem to have had a really interesting relationship, Tywin and Joanna, and I wonder who was actually, like, really in charge in that relationship. And it feels as though, from some of the things that have been said, that perhaps it was Joanna, but it's left Tywin just doesn't seem to really have much emotion on a human level to other people, including his own family members, including potentially his own grandson.
Yeah,
just kind of what I said. Go on.
No, sorry. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. It's just the bit then about Rhaenys is, I think that got to him. What Amory does to Rhaenys got to him. I mean, how could it not? He couldn't quite understand how a man could stab a 2 or 3 year old 50 times. And he doesn't have that, as callous as he is, as calculated as he is, and AU says clinical as he is, he doesn't have that that sadistic part to him. He doesn't, like, I mean, his children might, but he doesn't seem to have that sadistic part to him. And he said, when Tyrion says, why did the Mountain do that? He says, well, I didn't tell him not to. Like, it didn't even cross his mind that would happen.
He's a bit like Asperger's a little bit, Tywin. You know, he's very kind of like, he just sees people as commodities to, so he doesn't, when he's making, you know, organizing and arranging and engineering these things, these plots and these actions that take place, when something really brutal happens, he just kind of looks at this as, well, look, this is in a very practical sense my only option. He doesn't feel to himself that he's doing anything at all that's brutal. He finds some way to justify it all to himself. He does this all the time, Tywin. He's constantly like, well, yeah, but you know, look at the Red Wedding. It might have been horrific, but the price was cheap. You know, we got rid of all our enemies in like a handful of people, or we could have gone to war, and it could have been thousands. That, you know, bloodshed would have been much worse. So he's I just wonder whether or not he's actually able to have human emotions anymore since Joanna died.
It is one of those things as well, like to come off the Red Wedding, like the bloodiest event that we've seen so far, and to rather than get like a complete dissection of that, which we don't really need because we've just seen it, instead we get a recount of the other bloodiest event that happened, or that has been alluded to, arguably, which is this: what happened to Rhaegar's children and his wife. And it's so cold the way he says that. He says, I doubt I even mentioned Elia at all. She was nothing. I don't know why we had to do that to her. I mean, she was nothing. And it's just like, that poor woman. It seems like, from what we know at this point, it seems like Rhaegar threw her away. It seems like Tywin wasn't even interested in watching out for her. It's like everything just seems like she was just completely ignored and at the mercy of these monsters that showed up in her nursery, in her son's nursery. And the way he, as you said, just like commodity, and didn't even, because she was inconsequential, he doesn't even consider her. And this is, Tyrion keeps trying to bring it back to, I don't think you're getting this. The Martells are not going to be happy. They don't see this is their family. They're not going to see it like this. And he's like, whoa, Amory wasn't guilty and blah blah blah. And then Tyrion finally asks the question I wanted to know at this stage, why didn't Robert do it himself? And why did you have to do this? Why did you have to be the one to kill these people and bring them to Robert's door? And he says, well, we came too late. And you know, a hero can't be a hero if he kills children. So we have to let Robert be a hero. And it's just like, I guess, like, it makes sense if you're looking at it from his point of view. It just seems like it's horrendously calculating.
He justifies it all. He justifies it all to himself, and it's very convenient to blame Armory Lorch for, but that's nothing to do with me. I didn't give the orders. He was completely acting on his own orders. And funnily enough, we can't find out that ever, because Lorch had already died at Harrenhal. So that's convenient.
Although he had, from Arya's chapter, the way he takes out Yoren and the little boys and everything, he seems like he was a bit of a monster.
Connie says Tywin took down the reins and the Tarbeck so young that horror is normalized. Which, yeah, you know, that would make sense. It's almost like that kind of, you know, that, I don't know, like a young serial brain of a mind of a serial killer.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, Tywin and Joanna's relationship, Barbara says, was one of the biggest mysteries that I would love to know what really happened between them. I think it's more than I think there's more to it. There's more to it than what we're led to believe from the books. I think she was quite a formidable character.
Well, there's a lot of people that think she isn't dead, but I don't know how she would fake that. I don't know how you fake dying in childbirth, but I think they think that because of Jaime's dream, that maybe it's a glass candle type thing, or I don't know. But
it's very convenient, isn't it? There seems to there's very conveniently within the story this group of women who are not allowed to speak, and so that's a very convenient way of kind of like hiding someone. And we know that there's like every other chapter there seems to be somebody in disguise or somebody swapping something with something or other. So you know, any of this could be a possibility.
Yeah, Anisha likes your theory about the Tywin potentially being some form of autism. I think he's definitely a sociopath. He cannot empathize with people at all. He comes close to it, but he really is. He isn't a psych. I don't think he's a psychopath. I think a sociopath is probably what he is, and that seems to be. I mean, the Reigns thing is kind of psychopathic, but it's probably, I think it's more sociopathic behavior. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but I think at the end of this chapter, Tywin foreshadows the ending of the entire series, that bittersweet ending that we're all waiting for. And he says that of the people in the north and in the Riverlands and wherever else, come spring, they'll be all too weak. They'll be all of their strengths will be weakened, and they'll have to bend the knee. They won't have a choice.
Yeah.
And in the show, that's what kind of Cersei is banking on. But almost certainly that's what's going to happen to someone, right? At the end of this, not everybody's going to want to get behind whoever it is, Stannis or Daenerys or Jon or Sansa or whoever it is. Sansa Gendry, I think I'm leaning more towards now. I'm thinking maybe shipping Sansa Gendry, maybe. But yeah, I think whoever is left, that's exactly what is going to happen. He's totally right. When the spring comes, they're just going to have to kneel. There's not going to be arguments about that, I don't think. So that might be the bittersweet ending that we get. Anisha, he could be a narcissist as well, yeah. And Barbara says, AU says he doesn't even smile. That's right, yeah, that's correct, yeah, he never smiles. And Barbara says, Silent Sisters, boy, wouldn't that make a great epilogue? Yeah, I agree, yeah, if Joanna is with the Silent Sisters, is that what you mean? Yeah. So is there anything else in Tyrion 6?
Well, no, again, just Tywin doing his usual world building stuff, which is the crown now that the landscape politically is changing, so that the plan is that the crown are going to grant Riverrun to the Freys, to Aemon Frey specifically, and Lancel and Devon will now be marrying Frey girls. This is all the new plan following the Red Wedding. Roose Bolton now becomes the Warden of the North and gets to take home Arya Stark, and that she's going to marry the bastard of Bolton and bring the Northmen to heel. So yeah, God, some of the I just wonder how intricate. Does he just kind of outline, this is what I want, and this is the plan, you do this and we'll give you this and you'll get this? Or does he go, how far does he go with his planning? I mean, did he plan, did he say, while you're there, make sure you bring all your daughters out and disarm him, like, emotionally? That these are all the things that will help you win this, that will strengthen the trap that they're in, and that will, to what extent does he meddle in people's...
That sounds like a Bolton trick. That sounds like something Roose would do. I don't know if Tywin would get into that. I don't know. That sounds more like a Bolton thing. I'm not sure if Tywin would necessarily know how to psychologically pull. I mean, if he can't empathize with people, it might be difficult to know what makes them tick. Maybe. I mean, he really screws up with Tyrion later on at the trial, so
he banks on quite a lot. He's hoping that basically Rob is a carbon copy of Ned, and he's thinking about the things that Ned did as a young man, and some of the things that he tripped up over, you know, like maybe marrying somebody that he shouldn't have done before he married Kat, or
he could have been the one that encouraged Frey to give Rosalind, to give a very attractive wife to Edmure, knowing that Kat is very like Hoster, and would pull out had a good match not been on the table.
Yeah, keep them there, keep them happy, keep them, you know, give them what they think they're going to get up to this point, and then it's over. Maybe.
Interestingly as well, there doesn't seem to be another big red flag. It doesn't look like the Freys invited that many other Riverland lords.
No, it's literally just the Freys and the Boltons, wasn't it? Yeah.
And all the Stark bannermen then show up. So that's kind of a big red flag. I guess they're dealing with the floods and stuff, but still.
So, of course, Tyrion now is beginning to worry about how Sansa is going to react to all of this news. So we'll be getting these chapters next week, is how everyone interprets this and the aftermath and what this means going forward. But I don't know. I mean, I'm confused about where I'm up to, because I'm just reading the audio. I'm just listening to the audio chapters. Is this the end of the book? Is this the end of, have we got
no, we're not even close. No. We've about that much left to go in this book.
So that's the second part of Storm of Swords, right? Okay.
Yeah, okay. So I think our last date is Bastille Day. I think that's our last section. So we have another 1, 2, 3. We have 4 or 5 weeks to go on this one. And then, folks, thank you so much for all of you that already jumped across and subscribed to the other channel. I've already put on the playlist all the live events, so they'll automatically appear over on that channel anyway, once we've finished recording. So actually,
if AU is still here, he might be able to answer that question of, with a brand new channel, can you do live streams straight away?
Oh yeah.
Because that's one of the things that you're going to want to do, obviously, before. I don't know. I mean, are you going to be putting any content on there before?
Yeah, I'm just going to put up some. I have the Game of Thrones tapestry. I thought I'd put up just a little thing on that. It's in the Ulster Museum, and it's really well done. So I took some nice photographs of that. So I might put that up. And I'm not sure. I'll see. I mean, I'm not sure if I have very much time to put into theories and stuff like that. I'm not entirely sure. And there's so much of that out there. I don't know. Oh, AU says sure. Okay, that's fine. So once Feast for Crows starts, I'll switch the live streams over there. I have everything scheduled now on this channel, so I'll keep it here for now. And so it'll be around probably the end of July, beginning of August, we'll start Feast.
And there's a release date, isn't there, for Fire and Blood?
Yeah, the 20th of November. So I can only get the audiobook on the 20th of November. I have to wait until mid-December or the late December to get the actual book. So I'm going to get the audiobook as soon as it comes out here. And then I think I might be able to get the book here. I have to go into the English bookshop and ask them if they can get me. But to wait for Amazon to ship to Switzerland is going to take at least to the end of December, because I already tried to book it. And so I can get the audiobook on the day it comes out.
Yeah.
I'm going to be listening to it on double speed to make sure I don't get. I'm looking forward to it though, because we should get it's right up to the Dance of Dragons, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's right up to that, to the what is it? The War of the Dragons. What's it called? Yeah, the Dance of the Dragons. Yeah.
Yeah, the first Dance of the Dragons. Yeah.
So it's right up until that. So we might get some kind of dragon info. Yeah. So that would be good.
Brilliant.
So next week we are reading. Oh, I lost it. Next week we're reading from 54 to 59, which is Davos 5 to Sansa 4. So it'll be well and truly cheery, I'm sure. So any final thoughts, Claire?
No, can you just repeat that one again, Kat? So that was Davos 5,
Davos
which is
5 to 54.
chapter 54, and that's to
59, which is Sansa 4.
Sansa 4.
And it's always in the description box below, guys and girls. So if you want to click along, you can. And if you want to stay, if you're listening to the audiobooks, you could probably listen to Roy Dotrice on 1.5 or double speed, because from what I remember, he goes a little bit slow at times. So you could probably speed up that. Maybe you could speed up me and Claire as well, although I'm Irish, so do that at your own risk. So, I do that a lot. I kind of, do you know?
I don't like admitting it, but actually, probably for a few weeks, I've been watching people videos on. In fact, I think probably the only videos that I don't watch on YouTube that are not like 1.5 or 2 times the speed is the live streams that like John, like AU Pack Mule and Westworld and
it's
Kyle,
great. I love doing that.
It's just
Order of the Green Hand is a good one to listen to at 1.5 actually. They're brilliant, but if you want to get through quickly, like I'm dying to know what to say. So, I got that tip from Sam Harris, who actually, because he's so slow in his podcasts, he actually recommends people listen to him on double speed.
Right. Okay.
So that's where I was like, that's genius. I should just do that all the time. So so it does work. There you go. That's your tip of the day, folks. If you want to keep up to the reading with us and listen to Roy Dotrice, because we won't have Roy Dotrice for wins. All right. We will see you next week. Next week is a longer section, by the way. So just be aware of that. It's 6 chapters, but I think they're a little bit bigger. So just so you know. But you have your commutes to keep you.
Yeah, I can probably listen to them on the drive, actually. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, folks. I think Kyle has a live stream right now. So if you're not already jumping over there, please do. Okay. Talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.